There are a constellation of marriage-promoting behaviors packed into the biblical instruction for husbands to honor their wives. Today, we're launching from a simple phrase in the Bible that instructs husbands to show honor to their wives to demonstrate how a host of research-backed findings are encapsulated in this truth.
The Marriage Podcast for Smart People is designed to help busy couples like yourselves move away from conflict and unhappiness to build a marriage you'll love today and treasure for a lifetime. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Learn how you can help save marriages, prevent divorces, and keep families intact by going to oyf.support. Once again, that website is oyf.support. And now, here are your hosts, Caleb and Valinda Simone Gandel from Only You Forever.
Welcome to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. If you want to build a thriving, passionate marriage, we've got the research, the truth, and the answers you're looking for. We have a challenging episode for you this week. Well, I guess it's for you if you're a husband this week. This is episode number 203. And today we're going to be talking about how to give honor to your wife.
Hey there, before we get started, if you missed last week's episode, we discussed coming to marriage with different levels of sexual experience and history. What are the implications of that, especially if one partner is a virgin and one is not? To go back and check that out if that might be helpful for you. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so you don't miss any upcoming shows from us.
And if you're struggling with your marriage, we offer sound research-based advice, and most of all, we offer hope. So today's topic is giving honor.
Yes. Now, we mentioned in the intro that there's a whole bunch of research-backed findings, but it ends up sounding really dorky if you're kind of quoting those all the way through, like who it came from and where.
Yeah.
So if you do want to see the references for this episode, they will be written up in our show notes. We write every episode up basically like a blog post, and you can go see all those.
That'll be at oyf.link/203.
Yes. Thank you for that. And so our shows are not sermons, or we don't usually intend them to be. I am a professional marriage counselor, but in serving my church community and affiliation, I do get involved in a fair bit of preaching. Today, we're going to be looking at how one Bible verse, or actually just a phrase or part of one Bible verse, could be unpacked into a host of marriage-promoting behaviors. And I think this is another great example of how the Bible holds some practical, life-changing truth. In this case, the phrase is an instruction to husbands to give or to show honor to your wife. It's found in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, near the end of the New Testament. And so this idea of honoring your wife is, I thought we should unpack that. Actually, one of our patrons thought we should unpack that.
Okay.
And so I thought, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's tackle it. I think, I guess in my head, the way this kind of burbled out was, there's a little phrase in our Bible, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff packed into it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to unpack.
Okay, let's unpack.
So within marriage, honoring your wife is meant to be an unconditional act of showing value to her or assigning value to her because of the place that she has in your life. While respect is often earned, honor is given. And in this case, given because of her role, not because of what she does.
Okay.
Like I'll treat you better when you start making nicer meals. Doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge then is, and that sadly is a typical mindset of an abusive husband. So
it's your fault. Like I would treat you better if you behave.
Yes, if you are worthy of honor, then you get it. And I'm like, no, there's no condition put on this verse in the Bible.
Okay.
So the challenge then is to give her honor, even when honestly it can be difficult to do so, or when you feel she doesn't deserve it. So even stepping away from the abusive context into standard marriage, you have a little bit of conflict. You both get your ugly on and you're like, she doesn't deserve it anymore. Right? So, and in this, I'm not asking husbands to accept their wives' misbehavior or condone or support things that she may do that are hurtful or even destructive, right? But part of how marriage is sustained through commitment and loyalty is by this principle of honor, of giving honor. And so it means that even in difficult times and even if marriage difficulties, you interact with and you treat your wife in a respectful, honorable way.
Okay.
Because of the role she has.
So what does that look like? What does it mean to show honor?
Okay. So I think the first thing to look at is just in faithfulness. So being faithful and loyal to your wife is an important part of honoring her. Mm-hmm. The most obvious interpretation of that is not cheating on her.
Right.
That would certainly not be honoring her. But there's more to faithfulness than just avoiding infidelity. Husbands can also honor their wives by avoiding emotional affairs, which is too much reliance on emotional intimacy with a woman other than your spouse. So making your wife your primary emotional bond in your life And so there's nothing that you share more. There's no woman that you share more with than your wife. That's a position of honor.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Not ogling other women in real life, on TV, using pornography. That would be not honoring, not being faithful to your wife. It's going to have a very negative consequence for your marriage. Mm-hmm. And so whether, it's emotional or ogling or physical activity, genuine faithfulness is about not placing anyone or anything above your spouse and your fidelity to your spouse, emotionally and sexually, making sure your spouse gets the best of you as well.
Okay.
So one way to show honor is through faithfulness. Another way is through public and private praise. Praising her when you're alone, praising her when you're in public. Giving praise and compliments to your wife in private, expressing gratitude for what she does. That's a great way to show honor. And this can be a mix of specific compliments and recognition of what she does. But also don't forget to be praising and admiring who she is. Mm-hmm. And when giving praise, it's helpful to try to keep thinking of new things as well, rather than expressing the same things over and over. Although I just want to say on that, like dishes, laundry, like if your wife has certain things that she always does for you, I think that it does do well to express that over and over.
Well, you know what? I was just going to say the same thing. Like the fact that you thank me for doing your laundry, like every time you put your laundry away, I appreciate that.
Yes. So what I think the research is going here though is to avoid like the
thanks for the laundry,
thanks for supper, saying it the same way with the same intonation and the same meaningless kind of effort every time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that because then you hardly hear it anymore.
And that's about expressing it in a way that's genuine rather than forced or rote. Mm-hmm. Of course, in marriage, expressions of gratitude and admiration are strongly linked to higher marital satisfaction, commitment, and overall happiness for both spouses. That's a study from 2010.
And that's for the person giving the gratitude and admiration too?
Yeah, for both spouses. Yeah. It makes you feel better about your marriage, giving it.
Right.
Because you're owning the positives. Mm-hmm. And of course, it feels good to receive it. Now, public praise is honoring as well. I got into a little bit of a sidetrack on this one, which I think we need to sidetrack on.
Okay.
Husbands should also talk about their wives to other people in a way that's honoring, both when your wife is present and when she's not. It's not only a blessing to your marriage and reinforces your positive perspective of your wife, but it can also be helpful in preventing extramarital affairs.
Mm-hmm. We did a podcast on this one time.
We did. Mm-hmm. Fair proofing your marriage, I think it was.
Okay.
Quite early on. Praising your wife includes things like praising and speaking well of her to others. And these are suggestions from a study done in 2008. Siding with her, not friends or family. And siding with her also in parenting issues, especially in front of the kids. The unified front, super important to healthy parenting. It also means there are certain things you're going to take up in private rather than public in order to maintain your public honoring of her. So we don't sort out our junk in front of everybody, not because we're not willing to be vulnerable or to be real about the fact that we struggle, but because, I'm not going to take you down a notch in front of other people. Do you know what I mean? Or
yeah, but because you're not going to take me down a notch in private.
What I think I'm saying is that if I am going to register a legitimate complaint, it's going to look like I'm trying to take you down a notch in front of other people.
If it's in front of
and
people,
add kind of their social disapproval to what I'm saying so that you really get slammed and don't do that again.
Okay.
That's not helpful.
Okay, I've seen some parenting articles that say, no, it's more important to have your argument in front of the kids and show your kids how to resolve that argument than to be unified and then have your argument in private.
Well, excessive fighting in front of the kids is not helpful for the kids.
Yeah.
It's going to create a whole lot of uncertainty, lack of safety for them, anxiety. They're going to blame themselves. But having said that, we have the odd thing in front of the kids. Not very often.
No, but we might disagree about something.
But it's more, exactly, it's more disagreeing about something rather than, addressing something that you've been doing for a while that's really bugging me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And at that point, I guess, if the disagreements come up, then yes, you need to continue it and solve it in front of the kids?
Depends where you think it's going to go. I would say use your best judgment as to whether that's likely to turn out kind of where you guys are both at in that moment. Can you take on some conflict and demonstrate some healthy modeling of conflict resolution? Or, did one of you get 3 hours of sleep last night and hasn't had anything to eat all day? And, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the topic too, is it their business?
Yeah, that's true too. Okay.
So covered that. Good. Now, my sidebar part was actually not so much the kids thing, but the not complaining about her to friends or family. So this is an interesting one because it happens a lot and it's easy to do. And I think the core issue with complaining about your wife to someone else, like to a friend or to your brother or your mother or whatever, is that really you're most likely just looking for validation of your perspective and someone to commiserate with you. Mm-hmm. So basically, I think that's just throwing your wife under the bus because it doesn't solve anything. Please agree with me that my wife's being an idiot right now.
Yeah.
Right?
And then it just taints their view of your wife.
Yeah. And it reinforces me to go back to you thinking in my head, well, Bob also thinks you're an idiot. Do you know what I mean? Okay. I don't see anything, because this has happened to me a couple times lately and I just kind of it bugged me. Mm-hmm. It happened to me not on a professional level, on a personal level. Yeah. Okay. And I'm just trying to unpack why. And I think if you guys are stuck on something, a far more productive approach would be to find a friend who you think can help. And both of you go to that person together and explain the situation as a problem between you, not just a flaw that your wife has or something that's wrong with her. Yeah. If you don't have someone like that in your life, seek someone out if you can. It needs to be someone who's on the side of your marriage, not just on your side. Mm-hmm. And of course, a qualified marriage therapist is a good option if you do feel it's a deeper issue that you need to address, or you just can't find someone like that. Certainly feel free to reach out to us at onlyyouforever.com as well. Mm-hmm. So not complaining about her in public or to others. What do you think? Yeah. I just think like you have those complaining moments, and especially you kind of have the classic, the inverse of this that you do see in movies is like the four women at lunch, sitting around over their salads complaining about their husbands. Yeah. It's not helpful. Yeah. But guys can do the same thing at the gym or in the shed. Right.
But I mean, sometimes though, I think a friend can be a reality check. Like I was so frustrated with Caleb over this, and yet, was that really a big deal? Did it really matter?
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I guess I've been more subject to the more just, I want to bellyache to you about my wife and have you validate it.
Right.
Which is a little different kind of validating.
I agree.
That it's almost like you're asking me to validate that you should be not liking her. You think I'm going to get on board with that? Like,
yeah. Okay.
That goes against my grain.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just grinding an axe I have. On the flip side, for the positive part, as far as honoring her, when you offer public praise, it strengthens the marriage. It also improves other people's perception of your relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming this is genuine praise. We're not just doing PR or
bragging or...
Yeah, I was thinking impression management, but I don't feel like that's the right, you know what I mean? Trying to make sure people...
The right view of her, even if it's not genuine. Okay.
And this is beneficial for your marriage too, this praise and the benefits that come from that. So it's helpful. We got into sort of undoing the issue of what happens when your family disapproves of your marriage in oif.link/159. And this is one of the ways that you do that is through public praise. Yeah. Now, if you're a husband today and you're listening, you feel like you've been married a while, and honestly, you're taking your wife for granted, at least a little bit, not sure where to start some genuine, heartfelt thoughts of praise or honor, we can help you with that. We've created a 5-page meditation based on the poem in Proverbs 31 about the virtuous wife. Going through that meditation will help you find new, healthy ways of expressing honor towards your wife. And you can get this by becoming a patron of the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. Let's just take a quick 60-second break here and we'll tell you more about that.
What happens when the fairy tale marriage meets reality? Too often, high expectations lead to disappointment, communication breaks down, and the struggles of day-to-day life become overwhelming, leaving you feeling lost and without hope. Unfortunately, marriage does not come with an instruction manual. Marriage troubles are deeply personal and can take a toll on you, your spouse, and your family. Counseling can be expensive and divorce is very costly. It doesn't have to be this way. Caleb and Valinda understand your pain and frustration. Their mission is to help save as many marriages as possible, and to date, thousands of couples are helped through their weekly podcast. But the most important marriage they want to help save is yours. With a minimum of a $10 investment a month, you gain access to exclusive bonus content and valuable information to help you succeed in your own marriage. Learn more about saving marriages and how you can help at oyf.support. That's oyf.support.
You're listening to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. smart husbands today. Before the break, we were talking about private and public praise for your wife. Now, another way you can honor your wife is to understand and seek to meet her needs. Conscious, deliberate effort to meet her needs. Just before the phrase in 1 Peter instructing husbands to honor their wives is the phrase, dwell with her according to knowledge. That instruction, dwell with her according to knowledge. And I think that's also very helpful towards this goal of honoring your wife, because part of how you honor her is by really getting to know her and understand what her needs are, and then seeking to meet those needs. In my marriage, it usually works when I just say, let me make you some popcorn.
Or you could rub my feet.
Yes. You can do this by listening to and taking an interest in her passions, worries, interests, and so on. By being able to show or learning how to show empathy and validating what she feels, even if you don't feel the same way. I have to catch myself on that one. Learning how to respond to her in a way that makes her feel supported and loved. Now, as you might expect, understanding and showing attentiveness to needs is strongly linked to marital happiness. And this particular issue, showing attentiveness to needs, understanding them, is the strongest predictor of couples finding joy in their relationship.
Really?
According to a study done by Shapiro et al. In 2000. Yes. So don't underestimate the need to understand and seek to meet her needs as a way of honoring her. And finally, serving your wife is honoring her. We have a parallel instruction in Ephesians 5:26. It says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So just as the Lord Jesus was a servant-hearted leader, husbands can lead their marriage by putting their wife's needs before their own. Part of this is putting her practical needs before your own as well, but it can also involve what you say. So, for example, choosing not to respond angrily if she upsets you, and choosing to prioritize the marriage and her needs over your own in conflict situations. This is prioritizing, I think, is really the word that is in here. It's emphasizing us before emphasizing me. And this is a way that you can show honor to your wife.
So I'm racking my brain for an example here. Like, how do you put her practical needs before your own?
So thinking about the example, if she's angry, you could choose to see the need behind the angry comments that she's making during conflict and put those needs above your desire to retaliate, to have a perfect comeback or to lash out in return. Kind of going around it, looking for the deeper thing that's in behind as a way of care and showing honor. And that's also a well-documented, effective way to resolve conflict and create intimacy in marriage.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that'd be a blessing to your marriage as well as a way of honoring her. Does that give you an idea, or do we need more examples?
Well, I was thinking
Let's just make sure we
of the practical ways. Like, you can lead your marriage by putting your wife's needs before your own.
Well, so for example, so you come home, gentlemen, tired from a day at work, and maybe she does too, or maybe she works from home. So who has more right to sit on their butt on the couch with a remote? So traditionally, most husbands would assume that right. So if you want to honor your wife, why don't you work alongside her? Or offer to do it for her sometimes.
And then she can sit on her butt with a remote.
Yeah, no, that's a bad idea.
I'm taking notes here, honey.
Okay, let's wrap this up. It's getting into dangerous territory.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's all I had.
All right.
Hopefully we've given you a lot to think about. As always, if you need help from one of our professional Christian marriage therapists, feel free to reach out to us via our website, onlyyouforever.com.
Thank you to Ashley, who became a patron between this recording and our previous one. And thank you to all our patrons who continually support us. We sure appreciate it. Next week.
Oh, we're talking about how to break out of negative interaction cycles.
Oh, here I thought we were going to talk to the wives. Phew, far off the hook.
Just for today.
Just for today. And next week.
Did that sound too nerdy? You know how people get stuck into kind of the, they just go around in circles and we're doing the same thing we always do. That's what you hear.
Oh.
So we're going to try to show you how to break out of that next week.
Out of that cycle.
You got it.
Out of the dance.
Yes.
That is all for today's episode. You can get the full show notes at oyf.link/203. Find out how you can help. Go to oyf.support. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
The Marriage Podcast for Smart People is totally funded by listeners who support Caleb and Valinda in their mission to save marriages. If you would like to be part of this worthy cause, open your web browser to oyf.support. A minimum investment of $10 per month will help restore hope to married couples. Plus, as a patron, you'll gain access to exclusive bonus content and valuable information to help you succeed in your own marriage. Go to the website oyf.support now for more information. Thanks for listening to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People from Only You Forever.